Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal government raises alarm that Boko Haram and ISWAP insurgents have changed tactics, now target Christians in order to spark a religious war. Police in Katsina State kill 17 bandits in the course of repelling attack on Gurbi village on Kankara, that's in Kankara local government area. Senate criticizes federal government's arrangements at international airports for preventing entry of coronavirus into the country. World Health Organization warns that coronavirus outbreak has reached a decisive point and has pandemic potential. Further ahead is business, sports, news from Abuja, the FCT, and later, international news from our London studios. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms. That's Apple TV, Android TV, Fire, and Roku TV. Let's go over now to our Abuja studios where Markwe Ogun Yusuf has some more stories. Hello, Markwe.
Hello, Millicent. It's good to see you as well. We'll start with some stories here in Abuja. A former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Maurice Iwu, is asking the Federal High Court to transfer his trial on allegations of fraud to the nation's capital, Abuja. Professor Iwu is currently being tried before Justice Nicholas Oweibo of the Federal High Court, Lagos, on 4 counts of concealment, fraud and money laundering of 1.2 billion naira. At today's proceedings, counsel to the former INEC boss, Ahmed Raji, told Justice Oweibo that the transfer is necessary so as not to subject the defendant to hardship. He says Professor Iwu resides in Abuja but always travels to Lagos for the case, adding that the transaction that led to this charge was done in Abuja. But the counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Rotimi Oyedepo, raised an objection. He insisted that all the witnesses listed in the proof of evidence, including the bank officials, reside in Lagos and Ibadan, and that it was the Lagos Zonal Office of the EFCC that investigated the case. After listening to both parties, Justice Oweibo adjourned the case to March the 6th for ruling. And staying with the courts, a Lagos High Court sitting in the Igboshere area has granted a 20 million naira bail to popular Nigerian musician and performer Iyanya over allegations of car theft. The 1-count charge was made against him by the Special Fraud Unit of the Nigeria Police, to which he pleaded not guilty at his arraignment. Justice Mobolanle Okikiolu Igile, while granting Iyanya bail, said there was no prima facie case of criminal conversion against him in both the affidavit and the counter-affidavit of the parties. The judge observed that there is nothing to show that the defendant will interfere with the proceedings or jump bail if granted. Justice Okikiolu Igile granted bail in the sum of 20 million naira and one surety in like sum who should have landed property in Lagos with a certificate of occupancy. She also ordered that the bail should be perfected within 7 days and subsequently adjourned the matter until May the 27th and 28th for trial. And staying in our special stories for the SDGs, insecurity, conflicts, injustice and corruption are some key issues militating against the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal 16, which is peace, justice and strong institutions. Many Nigerians agree that no matter how many other goals the country achieves, without peace and justice, everything else can so easily come crashing. Our judiciary correspondent, Shola Shoeli, x-rays this all-important goal.
The challenges of addressing human rights violations, civil unrest, corruption and crimes generally is a universal one. It was in an effort to help tackle these very important developmental issues that the United Nations in 2015 established 17 Sustainable Development Goals with a target date of 2030. Goal 16, Peace, Justice and Strong Institutions, aims to significantly reduce all forms of violence, human rights abuses, and work with governments and communities to strengthen participation in the institutions of global governance. But how is Nigeria faring on all of these issues?
The greatest challenge to us as a people is that the will is not there to implement whatever we agree. You remember under the late General Sani Abacha, we talked about Vision 2020. We're now in 2020. What can you point to that we have achieved in that regard?
Nigeria has faced one violent conflict after another, from the insurgency in northern Nigeria, the militancy in the Niger Delta region, to the increasing incidences of farmers-herders clashes, kidnappings and violent robberies. One major fallout of all of this is the displacement of thousands of people and the abuse of their rights. All of this might have contributed to the 2019 report by the Global Peace Index, the world's leading measure of national peacefulness, that ranks Nigeria as the 148th peaceful country in the world out of 163 countries reviewed. But is there a way to restore the rights of those breached by the year 2030?
I think first thing we have to do is to recognize that we are equal before the law.
In 2019, the World Justice Project named Denmark as the country with the best judicial system in the world, measured by rule of law for the 5th time in a row. No African country made the top 60. It ranked Nigeria's criminal justice system as 12 out of 30 in Africa and 72 out of 126 in the world. To meet the 2030 target date, the Nigerian government has tried to proffer some solutions to the problems. Since 2016, the national budget has identified improved security and reduction of corruption as key priority areas.
We have allowed politics to dilute our justice sector. In as much as the hallowed chambers of justice can, politicians must be kept away.
There is a need to consider a wide range of solutions for the issues to be addressed speedily if the country must meet the SDG before the target date. Shola Shoyele, Channels Television News.
Well, now let's get some more insights into the UN SDG Goal 16, which focuses on peace and justice. And we're now being joined by Mr. Ojonimi Ape, who's a legal practitioner, to see how Nigeria is faring on this regard, in this regard. Now, when you look at some of the statistics that my colleague there, Shola Shoyele, reeled out, 148 out of 163 in the Global Peace Index, and no African country made the top 60 in the Rule of Law Index. What are the challenges preventing us from moving up in these rankings?
I think basically one of the challenges is that we are not being sincere. We're not being sincere, we're not being honest. And you know, Nigeria is a place where a lot of people will promote deception in this country. Instead of addressing the main issue, the critical issue, we just fool ourselves.
What are the critical issues?
The critical issues, like in my own understanding, is that we need to address the issue of education. Yeah, because if people are educated, people know their right, people know what is good for them, people know you ought to do this, you ought to do that. People will do better. Because if there's no education, people are not enlightened. Illiteracy, like I've told myself today, illiteracy has caused a lot of issues to us in Nigeria. Because if you go to the north, you come to the south, issues of violence, issues of insecurity, issues of corruption boils down to illiteracy. Until we address this issue of illiteracy, because
illiteracy on whose part? The people who commit corruption, are they always illiterate?
No, we need to tackle this issue from one aspect to the other aspect. No, when you talk about crime, you look at it from the foundation, the basics. What led to this crime? We talk about unemployment, we talk about greed, we talk about a lot of social vice. Now, but when you talk about tackling these issues, achieving these NDG goals, in fact, you need to ask yourself, how many Nigerians know about these goals? Do we know about them? We don't even know about them. If you can't go to Kano or go to my village in Ofantogo and tell them about these goals. They don't know anything about it.
Yeah, but for those at the top who know about the goals and who know that we need to build strong institutions, yes. Do you think that we're doing enough in that regard to cascade things down?
They are not doing anything.
In your profession, what would you say is the major challenge? I heard one of the respondents there talking about the fact that politics has diluted the judicial system. Would you agree with him?
To an extent, I agree with him. To an extent, again, I believe that as a judicial officer or as a legal practitioner, the first thing is that you need to see yourself as a minister in the temple of justice. Until you see yourself in that light, and as a minister, you know that you must uphold the rule of law. And until you see yourself in that light, you become gullible to politicians.
Are lawyers seeing themselves in that light?
For me, I don't know, but for me, I know I've seen myself in that light. I see myself as a minister in the temple of justice, so I must uphold the rule of law.
With the recent cases that we have seen, especially with the one that came yesterday and the strong statement passed by Supreme Court justices, would you say that lawyers are seeing themselves in that light?
If you look at it from that, what you say yesterday,
yes,
it boils down to personal view. It boils down to personal opinion. It boils down to what you see as being right, what you see as being wrong.
Well, let us talk about peace and violent conflicts that the country has faced. Now, a lot of people are talking about the rights of IDPs. Would you say that a number of people who have been displaced, are being protected? Are we looking at their rights at all, or are we leaving them as people who live as if they have no rights?
Like our government are not being sincere in this fight against. We should have tackled this issue before they get to this place. If we have tackled the issue of insecurity, there's no way we would have gotten to this place. We need to have put things in place to checkmate the violence that led to them coming to this extent. And until we address those issues, we'll keep having more IDPs in Nigeria. We'll keep having them. If you kill Boko Haram with guns and this thing, it doesn't kill their ideas. Boko Haram is an idea. It's an ideology sold to these people. They have this idea, and it takes education to eradicate this idea from them. Now, the IDPs, we've seen a lot of news, a lot of people come around, they are doing a lot of sponsors, a lot of charity, but they're not being sincere.
What kind of institutions would you be looking at strengthening in those areas to uphold the rights of people who have been displaced by conflict?
We need social justice. Is the key. Social justice. Until we address this issue, we will not make headway.
Well, we have to thank you for coming on the News at 10 tonight. Mr. Ojonimi Ape is a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on the News at 10. When the News at 10 returns, OPEC Secretary General Mohamed Barkindo is optimistic of price rebound in spite of excessive loss caused by slashed fuel demand in China since the coronavirus outbreak. That's on Business News. Do join us again.